tuning in to WTOE Radio Live. Our shows will start in 5 minutes.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
And now, WTOE Radio Live, brought to you by ThruOurEyes.org.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Hey, Jerry, how you doing today?
Doing great. I'm looking on the positive. It's the right side. How you doing, Janie?
I'm fabulous. I like laughter. I'm on the light side.
Hey, you know what that means?
I think that means we're always looking on the bright side of life.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
I'm so excited. The show's about to begin.
So am I, with my straw hat and cane.
I got my tap shoes on. We're ready to go.
Come on, everybody. It's time for the show.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Welcome to another edition of On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. I'm Jerry, and you're...
Janie.
It's working!
Yay, we're here. Woohoo.
How are you tonight, Janie?
I'm fine. There's a peacefulness right before the storm, and all is good.
And guess what we got?
You already have the storm?
It's snowing. It's been snowing since around 9 o'clock this morning, and it was the crunchy kind. Hey, Ralph, is it the crunchy kind? You'll find out when this jar hits your head.
Yeah.
And now it's the type of snow that you could hear, with that little ice pellets. Now, I don't know, Lenny, I sent you a picture. I don't know if you're able to put it up, but if you could, I wanted to show a picture of what our yard looked last week, and that looks almost like summertime compared to what it is today. Probably school will be closed till next year with all the snow here.
Yeah.
Or at least
and you're in North Carolina.
Yeah, we're in North Carolina. We're about 10, 15 minutes from South Carolina. But there's a lot of people without energy. Well, I know my brother had energy, so he had to take some pep pills. But but a lot of people without. That's not funny, by the way, with not having energy, whatever. But then again, if they didn't have any energy, they couldn't be watching us.
I'm glad you and I think it's funny, Jerry. Oh, boy.
But we're going to have a good time tonight. Skype notwithstanding, computers, electrical wires, ice on the thing. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, if all of a sudden, folks out there, you see cartoons of Felix the cat rolling along, you know something happened here, right, Janie?
I would think so. If you don't recognize that and the sound doesn't sound different from Jerry's voice, we're in trouble.
And as I told you before, now you know down here in these parts, basketball, especially Duke and University of North Carolina, that's like big time match, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And the game was postponed.
Oh my gosh, that's like postponing school in New York. They just did that last week, but they hardly ever do that. So you know it's bad then.
I know. So you don't know what's going around with this, whatever's going around with this going around. But so what else is new up there? Anything interesting, Janie?
Well, lots of stuff are interesting. We got a lot of emails this month, Jerry. I got about 100 different emails from people that either were wondering why we weren't on or what's happening with the show, and a couple of questions about the iOS. When are we going to start that? We might be doing that journey later in the second half of the show. And a lot of interesting things. 5 different people sent me books to read that they thought maybe I would like for the book corner. I think it's wonderful. We've got a nice, intriguing audience.
Yeah, I got a couple of emails thanking us for not being on last week. But
oh boy.
But do you have anything interesting? Any thought-provoking things before?
I have a thought-provoking thing.
Okay, but listen, Janie, before we go on,
yes.
I just want to ask Lenny for a comment. Lenny?
Yeah, I wanted to interject real quick for everybody that's listening. In case what happens last week, or what happened last week, happens again in the future because of weather-related problems or equipment problems, the best thing to do is shortly before you're ready to listen or watch a show, either do one of 2 things. Either follow WTOE on Twitter. You'll get it immediately if we cancel a show. Or if you check back at ThruOurEyes, either m.ThruOurEyes or www.ThruOurEyes.org, and you look at the show schedule, any show that's canceled or postponed, it'll be there before the show. So don't just wonder your computer's not working. Double check the schedule to make sure, in fact, the show was canceled or postponed.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
I got to learn how to tweet. What is it?
Tweet.
Like in Tweety Bird. I mean, I have a Twitter account, but I think there's a couple. We should find someone out there who's smart enough to talk to us about maybe an app that would be good for. We'll have to figure that out for the iPhone there for Twitter. But before anything else we want to say before we go to our.
I just wanted to say that I think your tweet too.
Aw, thank you.
It's Valentine's Day coming up.
That's
and if
right.
I could just share one quick quote, or is it you want me to wait till later?
Well, do it now. It's always good.
Okay. All you need is love, but a little bit of chocolate won't hurt. And that was said by, any guesses besides me?
Hershey?
Well, that's a good one. It isn't, but that Milton Hershey would have been great. No,
I meant John Hershey, the guy down the street, the milkman.
It was actually said by someone who wrote a cartoon.
Charles Schultz.
Exactly. Good for you, Jerry.
Wow.
I am impressed.
I
Anything with
one.
food, you know. That's what it is.
Well, I just happen to know cartoons.
You've been doing a lot of reading, I see.
Oh yes, I want to talk about the book I read before when we turned the book corner.
Good.
So, all right, folks out there in WTOE Internet Radio Land, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and fingers crossed, hopefully everything works well. We'll see you in 2 minutes. So don't go away.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Hi, this is Joe Ruffalo at WTOE Radio. If you'd like to know more about our state affiliate, National Federation of the Blind, you may call myself at 973-743-0075. We're here to help you.
How would you feel if your children went to school and weren't taught to read? What would the future hold for them? Today, a mere 10% of blind children are taught to read Braille. Literacy is a basic right, and with it, a blind person can become just about anything. With Braille, a blind person can read at the same rate as a sighted person. This opens doors to unlimited potential. Learning to read Braille is the key to success. Without it, a blind child doesn't have a chance. For more information on Braille literacy and blindness, please visit our website at www.nfb.org or contact me, Mark Maurer, President, National Federation of the Blind, 1800 Johnson Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230, or call us at 410-659-9314. The National Federation of the Blind. We are the voice of the nation's blind. Imagine climbing the tallest mountain in the world without ever seeing the path in front of you. Imagine winning a television game show without ever seeing television. I'm Mark Maurer, President of the National Federation of the Blind. With the proper training and opportunity, blind people can become just about anything. Visit our website at www.nfb.org or contact the Federation at 410-659-9314.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Well, we're back to On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. I'm still Jerry, and you're...
I'm still Janie, unfortunately. Larry left, and he was hoping somebody else would be sitting in the seat, but it's still me.
Well, that's quite all right. We love you, Janie.
Aw.
You know, I was wondering, do you know the phone number if anybody wants to call us?
I do. Would you like me to give it now?
Could you please?
I would. And if you would like to share any thoughts about this particular month, being Black History Month and President's Month and Valentine's Day and some special birthday you want to give a shout out to someone or anniversary, you can call in or make a comment at 1-888-572-0141. That's 1-888-572-0141. Back to Jerry.
We always get a kick out of that. And you know, when you were saying a special shout out, it is my sister Connie's 80th birthday today.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she's in Wall Township, living in assisted living. Mm-hmm. And on Sunday, they gathered around in her nursing in the assisted living room. They had a nice room there, and they had a little birthday party, and I was here in North Carolina. But it just so happened that her granddaughter, my niece, CJ, was going to East Carolina. She's a pirate, you know. Something in common with someone you know, right?
Yes.
A lot of people, you know. And she came to visit me. We went on FaceTime, and I was actually able to sing happy birthday to her.
How nice.
Wasn't that nice? So we sang, and you know who else's birthday it is today?
Who?
She's 32 years old. She lives in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
She works for the government. She's
Evelyn.
a heck of a nice young lady.
Mary Fernandez?
Evelyn? Yes.
Evelyn Valdez is 32. She wanted you to say that on public.
She's 19. I'm sorry,
She's
I read the
12,
wrong
isn't
thing.
She looks 12 and acts 12.
Last time I knew she was a little under the weather, so hope she's feeling better.
Yeah.
But you know, you were mentioning we were mentioning about the turning the book corner.
Yes.
And I mentioned to you last week that I read a book. It was
Hallelujah. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Hallelujah. It was 7 hours and 50 minutes plus.
Good.
And I read it on the NLS player, and I think I pumped it up maybe 2 or 3 or 4, up to 4. And it was really, and I read it in one night.
Great. What book was it?
How to Cure Insomnia.
Jerry, you're crazy.
Actually, the title was.
Oh, boy.
The title is There Be Dragons There.
That's the name of the book? There'll be dragons there?
They be or something, dragons there. And it was a Star Trek novel with Jean-Luc Picard.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very interesting book. And I did read it one night. And I kind of like books like. How do you read a book you like, and then have to stop and whatever? I mean, you know, isn't that hard?
Yeah, it's like watching a movie and then putting it on pause and then coming back to it 2 days later or the next day. You know, you usually want to sit down and watch a show. And the way the books are read, you know it. They're so engaging if you have the right narrator that you can't put it down. So you try and listen to it at a faster rate. Maybe you slow it down if you don't hear a name or you miss something, you go back a little bit and slow it down a little bit. But for the most part, if you listen to it on a little bit of an accelerated speed, you can do a 10-hour book in 7 or 8 hours. And it's really not that's really not that long if you think about it. And you don't have to just be sitting there. We talked about that today. We had is it all right if I continue, Jer?
Go right ahead.
Okay. We had our Echo Book Club today, and we actually, from the Echo Book Club, we had about 10 people here, and we had wonderful sandwiches. We missed you. Turkey and cheese on beautiful whole wheat bread, and it was good, and chocolate chip cookies, and it was nice. Hot coffee. Anyway, and that's your favorite part, I know, but we actually read a book called Jackie's 9, and we did it in honor of February for Black History Month. It was about Jackie Robinson, and it was written by his daughter, Sharon Robinson, and the 9 ways that he lived his life. And the 9 being, of course, symbolic of the 9 innings of baseball, and, of course, the 9 players on a baseball team. And each one meant something. And the very last positive way to live your life is excellence. And she has different quotes from different people. Oh, there's Oprah Winfrey in there, Michael Jordan, Jesse Jackson. It's really quite a nice book, and it's very short. It's under 3 hours, and it's pretty impactful. So you might want to look that one up. That's not my book corner, but it just happened to be that we read it today. And I'd like to do a shout out to the Echo Book Club for coming and enjoying and not slipping and making it in and out with Access Link, and good for you girls and guys.
Well, I was thinking that it's under 3 hours. That's someone whose initials are JR. That's his size book.
He read it. He knew everything on it. He was good.
Wow. Well, actually, since you're talking about books, you want to just go slip, right
into the book corner? Sure. So the book corner
but before that, we have a word, Janie.
I'm sorry.
But before that, we have a word from our sponsor.
That's me.
Hi, Lenny.
Hello. We're getting a couple of tweets. Apparently some people came in late. They want to know about your guest, and because we've advertised it, and maybe you better explain that we're still trying, okay?
Certainly. to those of you out there, we were just trying to the word in the professionalism is vamp a little to give some time, but we were trying to reach our guest via phone, and we were unable to reach her. We did leave a message for her, and we did hear from her via email a couple hours ago. And by the way, Janie, I said I was going to send the email, and I tried to, but I realized I'm on my landline, and for some reason, maybe someone knows the answer to that. I can receive, but I can't send on my the emails out there. So anyway, we're still trying to reach her, and if not, we'll have to reschedule her. Right, Janie?
Yeah, or if she can come in the second half, then
right. And there's a phone number that if she has a different phone number or something we're missing.
Right. And if Cheryl's listening in, Cheryl's the one that got us, Peg. So Cheryl, if you happen to be listening and you can contact Peg and tell her to get by her phone or whatever, that would be great, because we have the whole show and we can put Peg on whenever we can get in touch with her. So she has still some more time, and I would love to have her on the show. Great.
That's why they say you're the smarter one of the two.
Oh, I'm just a little younger than you, that's all.
Oh.
I'm not smarter. I'm just a little
smarter?
younger.
I can do anything better than you can.
No, you can't. Yes, I can. No. Anyway. Oh, boy. So the book corner for this month, is it all right if I continue?
Go right ahead. Then we just deja vu all over again.
No, I'm not reading the Yogi Berra book. Anyway, these two books have the exact same title. Both of them are called Heartbreaker. The first one is by Diana Palmer, Diana Palmer, and it's about a guy, J.B. Hammock, who is a confirmed bachelor. He has no interest to settle down at all. He just likes to be himself, and he has lots of friends, men and women, and it's fine with him. And Telly, a female, is one of his dearest friends. So she starts taking care of him. Of course, she starts falling in love with him. In the meantime, something happens to her, which I won't say what, and she loses some of her memory and has a little bit of amnesia. So J.B. Hammock starts to take care of her, and the sparks begin to fly. And it's really a good book for those of you that want Valentine stories, a little love story. For those of you that want another side of Heartbreaker, this one is by Julie Garwood. She also wrote Killjoy, Hot Shot. Any of those are all, she's a great writer. But these are suspense novels with a lot of intrigue. This particular novel starts out with a homicidal serial killer going into a confessional booth and professing to a priest, Father Tommy, that I am about to commit a murder. And Father Tommy says, about to commit a murder? He says, yes, I need your absolution. He goes, I can't absolve you from something you did not do yet. I can encourage you not to do it, and I can try hard to talk to you. He says, you can talk as long as you want, but I'm doing it. And it happens to be, I'm killing your sister. That's how that book starts. It's a really good story about Laurent, who is Tommy's sister, and how they get Nicholas Buchanan involved. And it's a really, really good, one of those explicit descriptions of sex and some violence and strong language type of books. Heartbreaker by Diana Palmer has mostly none of that in it. It's just a nice story type romance. So those are my books for the Book Corner. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Valentine's Day, because that's why we picked them.
That's very good. And if you don't like certain portions of a book, that's what the fast forward is for.
That's right.
That's right. But we were talking about books, and you mentioned, almost sounds like the second book, was that like a detective getting involved, or someone like a policeman?
Yes.
Or right?
Yes.
And I really like the Nick Carter and Sherlock Holmes, and
yes.
I like those types of books. The Johnny Dollar, the insurance man, and Philip Marlowe, and all those guys, and you can get them on the on the radio. They're called old time radio shows. And a friend of mine there, Stuart, from down here, Stuart McLean in North Carolina, said to me, "There's something called 20th Century Radio. Now you can get it online, but I got it on the TuneIn app,
Right.
and it's like every half hour it's a show, just like if you were listening to an old fashioned radio program, and then it also has a category called nostalgia, or is that neuralgia? Well, I think it was nostalgia, and you click on that and it gives you different choices, and some of them are podcasts that you can just listen to anytime. And yesterday, I found what was it? Christmas old time radio shows, which is a whole list of old time radio shows, and I listened to a Nick Carter one. And it was sort of like a loose adaptation of Scrooge. Mm-hmm. And it was nice. I like that.
Good.
But then, for those of you that have the new generation Victor Reader, which I am fortunate to have, as you know, the old one didn't have wireless access. The newer version has wireless access where you can get Newsline and Bookshare books. Now you can get radio programs, streaming radio programs, and I tell you, it's just more things for me not to do around the house except to listen to radio, and I'm just listening and just enjoying that the old time radio, the detective stories, Sherlock Holmes. Some of them have I said it backwards.
Basil Rathbone.
Yeah, why do I do that?
Razzle Bathbone. I don't know, but I like that name.
Razzle Bathlone, right? Just like in the the NOAA radio, the computerized weather voice that you hear like
yes.
Emergencies. Well, we have one here, and it's in Greenville, Spartansburg. Yeah. So yesterday I said to my friend, "Did you listen? I got it on it. It's Greenburg, Spartansville." I don't know how I do it. I mix them up.
My husband has that trick. He does that all the time. And sometimes it's really hysterical. Like if he's trying to read, let's say, Jane, this says Del Monte green beans. He'll say, Jane, this says green Del Monte beans. I'm like, what? Del Monte beans. Yeah, he mixes it all up.
There's a restaurant it's a hamburger chain.
Uh-huh.
and it starts with FUD. Have you familiar with that one? Just don't do it backwards.
Oh, I know. Well, that's like there was a shirt one time, and it said we went to a Seton Hall basketball game against Rutgers, and it said Ruck Futgers. Now you got to be careful when you read that shirt.
That's right.
Yeah, and I couldn't believe everybody had them on. I'm like, what?
In that, huh? And it's still snowing out there, and you're wondering what's going on. Kids went sleigh riding.
Good. Do you still go sleigh riding?
Went a sleigh ride. Sled ride. What do you call that?
Sleigh riding.
Sledding.
Ride.
But no jingle bells.
Sledding. Well, you want jingle bells? Wait a minute. I'm ready. I'm always prepared.
I hear those.
Oh boy.
Well, anyway, getting back to the heartbreaker, and we're talking about the Valentine's Day, and I remember that you profess that you prefer, if I remember, to celebrate Valentine's Day every day.
I prefer to celebrate every day. That's right.
And I think that's so right, because if we show all of our attention on one day, what do we do 364 days? It's like it's almost like when someone says to you, "Hey, you look good today." Well, what do I look the rest of the time?
That's right.
Because no one's ever said that to me. I look good today anyway. But
Lenny said it this afternoon. Then tonight when he saw your, never mind.
No, he jumped out of fear.
He said, Jerry, what is that? Oh, it's your chest. That's what he said. That made me laugh. Oh, I'm telling you, if we could videotape or audio tape or whatever before the show, it would be incredible. All we do is laugh. Oh, my goodness.
Outtakes.
Yeah.
I love to watch, especially Laugh-In. Remember the show Laugh-In?
I do.
They had that. I mean, I think they left some of the outtakes in. They became intakes as opposed to outtakes. Oh
boy!
But I mean, when you look at that, especially like Goldie Hawn, she just made me just laugh, or like what's his name, Dan Rowan would talk to Dick Martin, and then they would say, the population is growing. There's a lot, population explosion, and then Dan will say, well, there's a woman giving birth every 30 seconds. And Dick says, well, that's the problem. We got to stop her. Or he would say something. He goes, I didn't know that. You remember that voice? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about that Heartbreaker, wasn't there a song with Heartbreaker in it?
Oh, there must be. But I mean, there's Heartbreak Hotel.
No, yeah, but there was all the time you were doing it, I kept hearing that some Heartbreaker, but I couldn't think of the title. Anyone out there?
Right this minute, but maybe somebody with 1-888-572-0141 knows the answer to that and can give us some lines from it. That would be good.
And if you would be so kind, everyone out there, for the next 4 minutes to bear with us, and hopefully we can get our guest on the line.
Great.
We're going to take a 4-minute break. So don't go away. We will be right back.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old. Suspect, Caucasian male, 30 to 35, 6 feet, 180 pounds, wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued,
White van, out-of-state license, X-ray 687 Charlie.
You can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberalerts.org. When an Amber Alert is issued in the areas you've chosen, you'll receive a free text message. If you spot the vehicle, the suspect, or the child described in the alert, call 911. Sign up today at wirelessamberalerts.org. Think of it. Something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units, Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody. Repeat, Amber Alert canceled.
WirelessAmberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. This message brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
Mommy, you sure take the time and do a lot just to keep me safe. Knee pads, baby gates, corner cushions, socket covers, and that fancy car seat for big girls like me. Where'd you find that thing?
The odds of a child being in a fatal automobile accident? 1 in 23,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Mom, while you're remembering to protect me from the unthinkable, don't dismiss the possible.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
They're going to jump out of trees. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
I'm Johnny. We're 10 years old and we're blind. Our dreams are to become scientists.
My name is Catherine. I'm 24 years old and I'm blind. I'm currently in law school and one day I dream of becoming an attorney.
My name is Bill. I'm 74 years old and I've just become blind. My dream is to remain independent in my own home and not have to go to a nursing home just because I'm blind.
The National Federation of the Blind of New York has been helping blind people achieve their dreams since 1956. Help keep their dream machine running and visit blindnewyorkers.org to make a donation. You can also call them at 718-567-7821. Blind people are your neighbors and colleagues, so learn more about blindness and make your contribution today. Go to blindnewyorkers.org or call 718-567-7821. The National Federation of the Blind of New York. Today's dreams can become tomorrow's realities.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Welcome back, Don, the bright side.
Memory lane. Memory lane. I walk memory lane. All alone and blue.
Well, in honor of Abraham Lincoln's birthday, which would be today, we are going to play a something that people have read, probably memorized over the years, the Gettysburg Address. You remember that, right, Janie?
I was there.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But anyway, if you're letting my oh gosh, if you play it,
Mr.
Sam.
Webmaster.
Yeah, I couldn't even say it. But we're not ready yet. So other than that, here we are waiting for the Gettysburg. 4 score and wait, should I look this way? What's my best profile, Janie? My back to the camera?
Oh, your front to the camera, your face.
That's what when Norton asked, what's his name, Ralph. He goes, "What's my best profile?" He goes, "Stand with your back to the camera." But 4 score. A lot of people don't know what 4 score is, do they?
A score is 20 years, correct?
That's right. So 4 score and 20 would be
407.
That's two.
4 score is 80, and 7 is 87 years ago.
That's right. That's a Jeopardy question. Did you see what they had on Jeopardy last week?
No.
They had people voted for the early decades, the 80s and early 90s,
right.
The winners that they wanted to see. So they got 5 winners, the people who won in the late 80s, and one person won in 85.
Oh, wow. How did they I guess they had a list of names.
Yeah, they had a list of names and they voted on it. But anyway, let's watch or listen to the Gettysburg Address.
Wonderful.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Of the people, by the people, and for the people. Seems like those words, the sentiment of that sometimes gets forgotten over the years, and it seems that it's more for business or government or certain section or whatever. But those are words that we should live by. Of the people, by the people, and for the people. What do you think, Janie?
I found that very, very beautiful. It's so intriguing that those words were written so many years ago, and still, if you take out "we are here," because of the war that they were talking about, it could be any time in American history. And the reality is, one of the segments I like, but I'm going to paraphrase it because I didn't retain it exactly, was we will not remember this hallowed land by what was said here, but what was done here. What they did here exactly was what they said. Do. And so that's what I got out of that message. You do the right thing. Give a hand for it. We're all the whole.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can hear either
Easy
one
game.
of them. Skype is really giving us a hard time here, so let's see if we get anybody back. Jerry, do you hear me?
I hear you, but that's...
All right, because Janie, are you there?
Yes.
All right. Skype is really Chinese movie again, lips and sound, two different things, and your pitch.
Me?
Everybody. It's got to be at the studio end. There's a problem. So go ahead, you continue, and I'll let you know if you break up too much.
Okay.
Speaking of which, Janie, there was a movie on the other night. It was King Kong versus Godzilla, where you saw the lips move and then the words came out like a second later.
Yeah. Oh.
I was telling my sister about the Me Entertainment Network, and because we have it full time here, and she has it on Verizon, and they have like maybe a couple hours here and there of that paid programming.
Right.
Because she likes some of the old time things, and did you see who passed away yesterday?
I did.
Oh, we should have had a little sound clip of her. I love that one with about what's so special about your duck? Can your duck lay golden eggs?
Yeah. Well, you know what, Jerry? I just got a voicemail in my ear that says Tony Santiago is like near Skype, so I don't know what that's all about, but he was supposed to call in tonight.
Ah. And what's the number to call in?
1-888-572-0141. I sent it to him in an email.
Oh.
Oh, come on, Tony. Right. We're waiting for you. And so are all those people that called. I'm thinking maybe that's the people who tweeted, because a lot of people knew this iOS journey was going to begin tonight because we couldn't do it last month.
And we would like to apologize for all of those that were waiting to hear Peg, because I was curious about the book that she wrote, Chasing Venus, Going Blind in a Sight-Orientated World. But who knows? I hope all is well on her end. Our end over here doesn't seem to be that well. Speak about your own end, will you, Janie?
Speak for your own end, will you?
So we'll have to do a rescheduling on that. I love that word. But
absolutely. Well, if Tony doesn't come on tonight, Jerry, you can certainly do an opening of iOS, getting your iPhone for the first time and describing it, can't you?
Well,
you can do that.
One of the things that you and I discussed a little while ago is that if someone has access to YouTube, Jonathan Mosen did a wonderful 6-minute YouTube video clip on what was do you know the exact title?
Basically, I don't know the exact title, but I can send it out to anybody that wants it. You just email me and I've sent it to the tech division. It's something like how the blind use their iPhone or something like that.
Yeah. How does a blind person use an iPhone?
And if you just put Mosen and blind person and iPhone.
Or if you subscribe to the Tech Tidbits, you can find it.
Hold on one second, Jer. It says Tony Santiago is calling. I don't know who he's calling. He might be trying to call me. Oh, it's in my ear nonstop. Tony Santiago calling, and it's getting disconnected.
Well, the number is 1-888-572-0141.
So if anybody's listening and can get Tony to call that number, that would be great.
If he's calling you on Skype, you can't answer without going off the air, and your video has frozen, maybe because he called. So I'm keeping your audio on, but I'm not putting your video on.
Okay.
Maybe we should play some bum bum ba da 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 dum ba da da. I used to do that for work. but getting back to the YouTube clip.
Yes.
There's also that if you want, people should be getting that Tech Tidbits. That's very interesting from Flying Blind Inc.
Flying Dash Blind, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I can't read it anyway. But and one of the things is that when I first heard that blind people, visually impaired people, were using a touch screen, I said, wow, I mean, that's pretty interesting. Now, I remember, well, of course I remember, it only happened about maybe 2005 or 2006, but a graduate student from NJIT came over to my house. This was, I think she came a couple of times to go over a touch screen pad, and she was trying to develop it to help, how a blind person can use it. And I thought it was quite interesting, and it was the precursor to things that are already on their way.
Mm-hmm.
And but when you have the voiceover, which is not Siri now, but voiceover, which you can activate from the settings, the settings app. Then when you touch the screen, see, people who are sighted touch the screen and something happens when you touch it. There's an action. But for a blind person using VoiceOver, when you touch the screen, all it does is announce what you touched. Isn't that fascinating?
It's fascinating.
Now, if I just happen to have an iPhone in my hand, like I do, see that? That's an iPhone. See it, Lenny? Okay. And I'll raise the volume up a little. I don't know if you can hear that, but... And everything I touch, like I'll go onto my apps. If I go to the apps, hey, it's covering my face. What an improvement.
Calendar, Wednesday, messages.
These are the different
contacts.
Things. Now, photos. If I go to photos, now if I just touch it, it doesn't it doesn't activate it. So I double click it.
Photos, 17 of 21.
And no matter where I double click, and no matter where I double click on the screen, up here or down here, the last thing that had focus is what comes on.
17 of 21. Edit button.
Now, I'm doing this backwards.
Camera roll. Back button.
Here's a camera. This is my pictures.
Edit button. Photo. Share button. Photo. Landscape. 11:44 a.m.
This is the photo this morning at 11 something.
Crisp, bright image.
Told me it's crisp and it's bright. Isn't that cute? You can't see the photo, can you, Lenny? Yeah, it's kind of hard. So then we have what we call to get rid of these, you press the button twice, the home button.
App switcher. Photos. Running.
And then
Close photos.
up and tap.
Home.
How easy is that?
Settings. Running.
Up
Close settings.
and tap.
Pandora. Home. Pandora.
And there's Pandora. You remember her, right, Janie? Janie's gone. Aww. Can't hear her, can't see her.
We can see her. Janie, no audio.
Should I do that too? But anyway.
Are you muted, Janie? Because we can't hear you.
Hello?
Now you're here.
Hi, Janie.
I called Tony while you were gone and told him to call 1-888.
He just called you on Skype. He's calling you again.
I told him to call
on
the
Skype.
1-888 number.
He's
So
calling
hopefully
Skype now. He's calling. I'm taking it. He's calling you on Skype.
Maybe that's
Well,
why
anyway.
I got crapped off.
Maybe he doesn't have a phone. But that's all right. I'm still on, right, Lenny?
Hello?
Yes, you're here. No, you're
you
still with us,
Janie,
Janie.
talking to-
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
I
can.
can hear you.
Okay. I'm unmuted. Okay, good. I'll be
But
quiet.
Janie,
now.
we talked about the iPhone and the
I came in on the app switcher. That was good.
yeah, and there's so many things. So for what we'd like our listening friends out there, I hope there's no listening enemies, friends out there to call us or write us. We have an email that they can, or a way they can contact us, Janie.
They can contact us via our website, which is www.throughoureeyes.org/brightside.html. And there's a spot there where they can click on and send an email. Or many of you know my email address, jdegen16@comcast.net. Or Jerry, can you give your email?
My email is Gerald Moreno, GeraldMoreno 1950 @gmail.com. That's GeraldMoreno, my first and last name, 1950 @gmail.com. And if you have a question, a specific question about an app or something about the iPhone itself, if you're concerned about upgrading to the latest, or you're concerned about buying one, and do you want should you buy an iPad or iPad Mini or an iPod Touch or whatever, write us, and if we don't know the answer, well, that's tough. No, if we don't know the answer,
we'll try and get it for you. You know, Jerry, I got an email the other day, and actually I talked to someone this evening about the difference between a retinal display and a non-retinal display in an iPad mini. And is it valuable for us to get that? Can you answer that?
Well, the answer is the retinal display is a very, very sharp picture. For me, I could have a blank screen.
Right.
So the answer to the question of whether you would want to pay extra to get the and there's other factors involved, but if using the screen isn't something that you want to do, then you might want to go for the retina display. If you have no vision or no usable vision or don't care about that, then you can go for the fourth generation, third, whatever they call it. The only thing I would advise is that in the differences of the 5S and the 4S and all the other S's and the iPhones and the iPads, and that there might be some other factors involved, like the speed of the processor, the amount of applications and that you could use. And remember that over the years, just like in the computer programs, some people are finding it hard to find programs that are written for XP, maybe, because everybody's upgraded to Windows 7 or Windows 8 or something like that. And if you have a Windows 95, you can hardly use any of the programs, software made today. So that's another factor. But there are articles written about whether you should buy an iPad mini or an iPad. Now, I remember, Matt, we bought Madeline, or I bought Madeline for Christmas an iPad with the retina display and all of that. The retina display doesn't mean anything to me, but I mean, she enjoys it, playing her solitaire and pick the word and all that other stuff. But you have to learn how to use see, for me, using the iPhone, it's a lot easier than using the iPad, because the iPad is so large. There's other things on the screen when you go to use it. When you use the iPhone, like when you go to what I was showing you, the different apps, that's all you see or all you hear. But when you use the iPad, it has other things on the top of it or on the bottom or wherever it is. I really can't tell. Now, they do make, and I don't know if anyone makes it for the iPad, but Janie, are you aware that they do make like a little overlay for the iPhone that has little lines on it?
Yeah.
Right? Did you say you knew someone who made that, or someone else told me that?
No, I don't know anybody that made it. No. Must have been somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who does that, but if anyone's interested, just email us and we'll find that out. But you can buy this little overlay that goes over it, so that when up here, and we got about 2.5 minutes left. Can you believe that, Janie?
No.
Like up here is the signal strength, and then the home key, and when you open, say Pandora, the back button is usually in that corner, and there's like a little line or dot there, so that you know where that is. And then it also has something like a lot of applications have things down here, 5 little tabs. You see, you have these little tabs here, and it's very interesting. I mean, some people need it and some people don't. But Janie,
yes,
we got 2 minutes left. Can you believe that?
I don't like that story. I like being on this show.
I know. But anyway, you have any thoughts? Paper Mill Playhouse coming soon? Anything?
There is a Paper Mill Playhouse coming soon.
I have to say something quick on the air. I'm sorry.
But before that, we have a word from our sponsor.
I got to apologize to the audience, but that gentleman that you wanted to talk to, Janie, keeps on calling on Skype, and we can't take calls on Skype. So the people that hear the beep, 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 beep all the time is because he keeps on calling, and I keep on denying him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just so people know what they're hearing, they're not going nuts.
Right. Well, if he would have read his email, it did say 1-888-572-0141, and he did say, got it, and I'll see you. So he just probably forgot that and thought he was supposed to call in on Skype. I don't know.
But
anyway,
that's okay.
It is what it is. We'll have him on next month. We'll try again. But in the meantime, we
got 1 minute.
Go ahead, Jer.
We got 1 minute. Where's the paper mill?
Oh, the other Josh Cohen, it's called. It's a 90-minute production on March 15th. We'll be doing that. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll be going to California to see my daughter. And I don't know if all of the listening audience knows this, but Rachel and Alan are expecting a baby. And that's going to be happening the end of July. Thank you.
Grandma.
Yay! And when I go out there, it's going to be the time when we find out the sex of the baby. So on March 12th, I get in the night before at midnight. I'll be here for the show. Hopefully I'll be awake. But in any event, I'll be able to tell you if she's having a boy or a girl.
Well, that's good. And we have about 30 seconds left. And I'd just like to thank everybody who bore with us, bared with us, or whatever they did with us.
I hope they weren't bare.
For the show. And sometimes it is unbearable or unbearable. I don't know. But well, we do promise to have a good time, and we had a good time. We enjoyed ourselves, despite the fact that Skype is Skype and never the twain shall meet, and Twitter and all of those little words and hashtag. And this hash was a bad word when I was growing up. But anyway, so folks, our next show is what? March the
12th.
March the 12th, just like February the 12th. And we'll be having some sort of party going on then. And we'll be talking about all different things and maybe springtime and all of that. So
we do have a guest for that night, Alice Eddy. She's all ready to go. So we're in good shape.
Thank God for that, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a good time. Who knows what's going to go on. And we're looking forward to talk to Alice, right?
Yes.
And we're going to have a good time with the snow. So for everybody out there, thank you for listening, and come back next month.
Stay dry. Bye.
If you can, try.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
All words, ideas, and content expressed on The Bright Side are solely those of Jane Degenshine and Jerry Marino,
and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the Northeast New Jersey chapter, or WTOE Internet Radio Network.
If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, down with silly chumps, just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. Hey, always look on the bright side of life. Come on guys, cheer up. Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Worst things happen at sea, you know. Always look on the bright side of life. I mean, what you gonna lose? You know, you come from nothing, you're going back to nothing. What have you lost? Always look on the bright side of life.
Hi, this is Joe Ruffalo of WTOE Radio. If you are a resident in New Jersey and would like to join one of our chapters or have some more information about our chapters, please contact me at 973-743-0075 or email me at nfbnj@yahoo.com.
Advertise your events on internet radio and podcast free. Need to advertise your club or organization's next event? Whether it's one announcement or different ones weekly or monthly, now you can. ThruOurEyes.org, using our WTOE radio live broadcast and our podcast, give you the ears of the world. You can take advantage of our free offer in one of two ways: recording your announcement on your computer or calling our toll-free telephone number. Visit our website to learn more.
Are you stuck in front of your computer listening to our shows?
Well, you may be happy to know that you don't have to be anymore. Hi, this is Keith Zalley, your announcer here at WTOE Radio. Of course, you know we broadcast live on ThruOurEyes.org, but did you know we simulcast on Facebook, Ustream.tv, as well as all of our show's host websites? And now you don't have to be stuck trying to catch your favorite show on your computer. You can listen or even watch our shows live right on your smartphone or iPad. During broadcast nights, just point your phone or iPad browser to our mobile site, m.throughoureeyes.org, and click on the Listen or Watch Live link. WTOE also offers many smart apps for your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, Windows Mobile, or Nokia phones, iPads too, all for free. Visit our main site, www.throughoureeyes.org/appstores.html, and download your free app today. Hi, I'm Keith Zalley, your announcer here at ThruOurEyes.org. Thanks for tuning in to WTOE Radio's live broadcast. Our recording session will start shortly. While you are waiting, I'd like to ask all our listeners who have not yet registered at Through Our Eyes to consider doing so. Registering helps us ascertain whom our listeners are, where they come from, if they are blind or visually impaired, as well as other important information which helps us guide us in providing programming that will meet our visitors' needs. I urge all our listeners to register today. It's free and only takes a minute to complete the process. Please read our privacy policy so you can be assured that the information you provide stays with us and only us, and you'll never get any unwanted emails. Well, we're almost ready to begin. Since what you are about to listen to is live, after each recording of the show, you'll hear approximately 15 minutes of music. This is the time we are contacting our next guest for the next show. When the show starts, you'll hear it in its entirety. Our recording sessions usually comprise 3 separate shows, each about 15 to 20 minutes in length, with approximately 15 minutes between each session. So once again, thanks for listening to WTOE Radio Live. Our recording session will start momentarily. I'm Keith Zalley. the next hour, join Steve and his guests as they talk about topics geared to educate and inform his audience. Listen as Steve brings his unique experiences as an author, business leader, teacher, and law enforcement professional to the conversation. Together with outstanding guests, Steve asks the questions that make a difference in his listeners' lives. You're guaranteed to be better off after you listen to the Kovacs perspective than before his show started. So, sit back, relax, and see what his show can do for you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kovacs Perspective. I'm your host, Steve Kovacs. You know, most of you guys that watch this show or listen to it, I think we have more people that actually listen to podcasts than actually look at my ugly face, which is actually good. But most people don't know that I've been involved in the martial arts all my life, since I've been about 8 years old. I had some break time there, but I've been involved in it because it was a family affair for me. And I also am the author of a book called Protect Yourself, The Simple Keys Women Need to Be Safe and Secure. Most folks don't know that, at least the most radio and TV people that I associate with just don't know that because I don't talk very much about it. And I'm still involved in it and directing a martial arts studio, and actually am the managing director for an organization called the Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt Federation of the United States of America. Again, most folks don't know that. It's no big deal. It's just part of what I do and have done all my life. So I'm really, really very excited with our next guest. And let me tell you why. Because I've seen her on magazine covers. I've seen her in magazines. And when I say I've seen her, I've seen this woman that looks tribal. She looks kicking butt and taking names, and she's so into women's self-defense, but reality. I mean, very impressed. Let me tell you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about our first guest. She's a former psychotherapist dealing in recovery from trauma and sexual violence. She's also an award-winning women's self-defense expert and advocate. And when I say advocate, she really is. She's all over the place, and she's won awards. And like I said, I think she's won an award, something called like the Black Belt Woman of the Year or something. But I've seen her in Black Belt magazine, which is I believe that's right, one of the places I've seen her. And that's a magazine that's really big in the martial arts. It's like, I don't know, Time would be in for its genre. And I've seen her for years, and I've always wondered, who is this woman? Look at her. She looks fierce. She doesn't look like she's 6'2" and 280 pounds, with big biker tattoos. Just a regular woman, but kicking butt and taking names and utilizing her self-defense moves with people wearing all this gear on, so she can really hit them hard. So I'm really excited because of that, because I know a little bit about this world. And I know a very little bit about our guest, and I'm going to introduce her in a second. But before I introduce her, I want to say, after we have this person that I'm very much intrigued to talk to, we're going to talk about Whitey Bulger. Anybody know who that is? South Boston, mafia, crime, organized crime. This guy just made it in the news. He's been on the lam for, I think, 30 years, Whitey Bulger. Think about it. We've heard about it. I mean, he was disappeared, number one on the FBI's most wanted list for years and years. They finally caught him. He's gray and old, and they just convicted him. But South Boston, when he was big and bad years ago, South Boston was a dangerous, mob-infested area. And our second guest was around that area during that time. He hung out with all these people. He was everywhere he turned. He had these mob guys around, organized crime guys. Now, I'm going to leave you with a little hanger. Did this guy that we're going to have on become a mobster? Did he become one of those organized crime people? Well, what he did become was an author, and he wrote a book, and he's going to tell us all about it. So that's our second guest. We have great stuff ready to go, and we'll be back very shortly. Don't you dare leave. Come back.
We'll be right back with Steve and his guests right after these few messages.
It's
slices, it dices. It's Car Windshield. And now it can be yours. Next time you're in a car and the driver's driving recklessly, simply say nothing. Ignore that little voice in your head that's trying to warn you. And you too can experience Car Windshield. Car Windshield may not be for everyone, as it can lead to severe side effects and even death. Passengers who wish to avoid Car Windshield can do so by following simple steps, like speaking up and telling their friends to slow down.
There is no spokesperson to prevent reckless driving. There's only you. Speak up. This has been a message from the Ad Council.
Snow! Hold it. You're not going outside without a jacket.
The odds of a child getting hypothermia? 1 in 66,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. Here are some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs, visit autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Are you stuck in front of your computer listening to our shows? Well, you may be happy to know that you don't have to be anymore. Hi, this is Keith Zalley, your announcer here at WTOE Radio. Of course, you know we broadcast live on ThruOurEyes.org, but did you know we simulcast on Facebook, Ustream.tv, as well as all of our show's host websites? And now you don't have to be stuck trying to catch your favorite show on your computer. You can listen or even watch our shows live right on your smartphone or iPad. During broadcast nights, just point your phone or iPad browser to our mobile site, m.throughoureyees.org, and click on the Listen or Watch Live link. WTOE also offers many smart apps for your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, Windows Mobile, or Nokia phones, iPads too, all for free. Visit our main site, www.throughoureyees.org/appstores.html, and download your free app today. And now back to the Kovacs Perspective.
Welcome back, everybody. Steve Kovacs with you. Our first guest, and I talked about her in the beginning before we went to a break. Her name is Melissa Salt, but I want to call her, and a lot of people call her this. And this is when you go online and you look through some magazines, you'll see a person by the name of Dr. Ruthless, and that's who our guest is. Melissa, Dr. Ruthless, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too, and you know why I'm excited? Because for years you have been the black sheep of the family, and by that I mean you've stood out from the usual, the run-of-the-mill. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I call the black sheep of the family. I actually think that what I'm all about is completely natural to women, and that's what I really want to get across. That, you know, all women possess this innate ferocity. It's hardwired, it's primal, and so what I'm all about is the methods, the skills, and really helping women be able to birth this power and bring these skills to bear in emergency self-defense, should all else fail.
Well, and I didn't mean anything bad about black sheep of the family, and I do agree with you. I actually think what you've been talking about for years is what's reality, and what women should be utilizing, how they should come up to situations, and I think very similarly. I don't like the little the philosophical journey kind of thing, and just like kind of tapping and this should work kind of thing. In your face ferociousness. So I think you're actually a major trendsetter. And how long have you been doing this kind of stuff? And ladies and gentlemen, when I say she's different, I mean, you've got to go. Matter of fact, let me mention it now. It's www.drruthless.com. Is that correct, Melissa? Is that your website?
It's dr-ruthless.com.
Okay, it's dr-ruthless.com. So ladies and gentlemen, seriously, if you can listen and pop her site up and take a look. I mean, Melissa, you're completely different. How long have you been doing this? But when did you start doing this?
I've actually been in this field in practical primal, what I call primal self-defense, since the mid-'80s. I've been involved in the martial arts even prior to that. So I do think I am kind of a trendsetter in that sense. I mean, I'm part of the early. I'm one of the pioneers of the women's self-defense movement, if you will, especially in the kind of training that utilizes mock attackers and going full force. And over the years I've kind of carved out my own niche and my own brand, if you will, and I really am. I love to hear you use the word the ferocity, because if a woman has to go physical, and again, that's always the last resort, you want to escape a situation, flee, use boundary-setting skills to deter a situation and so forth. But if a woman has to go physical, because men, by and large, are larger and stronger, then she needs to be armed with really practical, fierce, attack-back, counterattacking skills in order to facilitate that escape. The goal is always to escape, but as you and I know, that takes a lot, because we do have some disadvantages. So I'm really about women tapping into these very the fierce animal part of themselves and using gross motor skills, because under the effects of adrenaline, if somebody were to physically attack you or even get in your face and just swear at you, the body is pumped with adrenaline and fear. And this is a critical piece of my training to women, is where are you going to go inside of yourself to pull ferocious from fear? Because you've got to have that wired. And so you have to have that piece wired. All systems must be go. And you need to be armed with basic gross motor skills. For example, knees and elbows and palm smashes. And so part of what I'm about is demystifying. This is not martial arts. You don't want fancy footwork or handwork. You want to get really down and dirty, get mean and nasty fast with focus and targeted hits to vital, vulnerable areas: the eyes, throat, the knees, the groin. I teach a lot about using the environment. How might you, if, for example, a woman would find herself pinned against a wall or some situation, you might counter-grab the person and, boom, really spin around from your hips. A lot of what I'm about focuses on the power of women's hips and lower body, because that's where our greater strength lies, and use the environment. You might want to, if somebody's grabbing you from behind and lifting you up, and you're in a ladies' room and there's a countertop, you want to get your foot on that countertop and shove back really, really hard because you have padding, the person behind you. So I teach about using everyday objects in self-defense, which I think is so vital for women because of the size differential. So I teach women simple things like how to use a pen, how to use whatever's on your desk in front of you, objects, everything, junk on the street, and how to wield power. Because once you know the mechanics of being able to wield power in a physical sense, which you're very familiar with, how to really call up that power and have good basic body mechanics, then anything you can get your mitts on is an extra. You want to own your environment that way and kind of even the playing field. So, I've been doing this, I think, forever, for lifetimes, I often think. But I actually have my own stories, as so many women do, personal narrative as to what got me onto this path. And I'd be happy to share those stories if you'd like to hear them.
Yes, please. I want to hear.
Well, my stories go back, I'm old. I'm 58. I'm a feisty 58. My stories go back to the 70s, mid-70s, when I was a late teenager. And I went traveling back in the day, sort of as part of the hippie caravan movement, through the Middle East. I lived in Israel, and I went around the Middle East and Central Asia and India and the stands. It was a remarkable journey, radicalizing, and just remarkable in its splendor. But like so many women on their maiden voyage into the world, I was also assaulted and attacked. And, suffice it to say that low budget would have been an upgrade in terms of how I was traveling. So, without going into the details, I found myself in situations where attempted rapes, street attacks, and I had no training. I mean, I was a fat kid growing up with no particular physical training, but I discovered it. What I realized was that I was a scrappy bitch, and I use that term affectionately. And I realized that I could fight back, and I used my body effectively to thwart off and to fight back and escape physical and sexual attempted attacks. But that being said, I also really suffered a lot of indignities, as so many women do, in that I was grabbed and groped and molested and all that kind of stuff. So that was part of my my awakening, if you will. And I had this one experience, which I think is really important to share, because I had this one experience. It happened to be in India, but it could have been anywhere. and somebody wouldn't take no for an answer and went to a 10, and I just exploded. That was when I really, really discovered some part of me that I didn't know existed. It was as if a seed popped open, you know, and I just, I struck back hard, fast. I just counterattacked. And it was an incredible recognition, because I went, you know, wow, you know, I could be dangerous. That my body is also an instrument of power. So that was a very strong awakening, and in some ways it sowed the seeds of what would become my very primal sort of philosophy. Well, fast forward that story 10 years, and now I'm training in the martial arts, and, you know, back in the U.S., I'm living in Colorado. 1985, somebody broke into my apartment. I was home alone. My fiancé at the time was working overnight, and to make a long story short, it was terrifying. I mean, it was the nightmare story of the creaking floorboards from the footsteps of a man you don't know coming towards your bed, knife in hand, down a hallway. And I had been training in Aikido and a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but this is 1985, but I'd never really learned a lot of the real practical, down and dirty stuff that has now become me in a sense. And and I also had never learned how to fight back from a lying down position, which I was in bed. And my voice, I mean, I screamed bloody hell, I'm surprised you didn't hear me, sent him fleeing. But it was a terrifying and traumatizing experience. There were follow-up phone calls, he had a gun, he was going to get me. Again, this was back in the mid-'80s. So, and I was working as a therapist at the time. I was starting to work in private practice as a psychotherapist. So I understood intellectually what was going on, you know, the trauma. It was just like, by day I was okay, and at night I was a wreck. But I understood all that in my head, but the body was a whole other thing. So it was on the heels of that experience that auspiciously or coincidentally, or however you want to say it, I learned about a method of self-defense training that was specifically geared for women, that would have these padded attackers, and that was going to teach rape defense from different positions and be very, very practical, you know, eye strikes and groin strikes and throat strikes and slamming ear claps and bashing. And I said, that's it, I'm doing that, sign me up. And what happened was that it was a very primitive form of what I do now, teach now, but it was so therapeutic as well as just really good raw physical self-defense training that, you know, that's the beginning of the love story. And then I started
and you explained it really
well.
And I've got to tell the folks out there listening and watching, and by the way, Melissa, you probably haven't seen this, but the producer, the directors have been running much of your videos. The whole time you've been talking, we've been showing things from your website. So,
excellent.
Listeners and viewers, if you know somebody that wants to specifically learn more about reality-based women's self-defense, tell them check the podcast out and go to dr-ruthless.com. But you're really groundbreaking, and the reason I say that is I just know you are, because I've been doing this. I'm an old fart myself. I'm not saying you are also, but you called yourself old. I'm old. I've been around this for ages, and so much. Ladies and gentlemen, she mentioned something you want to do, your gross motor skills. You don't want to do what you're talking about, right, Melissa? You don't want to do all these fancy kind of things because your body can't do it, can it?
Yeah, because under the stress of adrenaline and that fear and the emotional intensity of everything, you really need to stick to simple things that reduce the margin of error and are not complex or fine motor skills. So, you know, again, the big body moves. You know, you use your hips and drive into your target, whether it's hitting with your elbow or your palm or your knee, or if you're on the ground delivering side kicks. It's almost very animalistic, but with a sharp focus and clear targets and, you know,
well worded.
Tremendous
well
power.
worded. Animalistic, but a clear focus in that training. Now, let me ask you. I want to cover as much ground as we can, because I should have booked you for an hour, because I think you could make a big difference in women's lives on what you're all about. But I want to ask you. This is a question I'm sure you've been asked, and you're a realist, so I want a reality answer from you. Can a woman 5'3", 110 pounds, successfully fend off, I can't think of a better word right now, a 200-pound, 6'1" male? Talk to me.
Well, that's a very, very good question. And the simple answer is yes. Yes. Let me just say that. But that being said, because make no mistake, and I don't sugarcoat this, I'm 5 feet tall on a good hair day. So I'm little, and it's true that men, generally speaking, there's always exceptions to the rule, have much greater, they have a size and strength advantage. And that's exactly why, because of that, and, if a woman needs to go physical, she really needs to be armed with practical skills, and she needs to be far more determined, and this is where mindset and will come into play, because there's skill and then there's will. But the answer is yes. Does that mean it's always going to be effective? The answer is no. Nothing works all the time. Sure. Women need options. They need to have the option to fight back in order to escape or to shut a situation down, even on the prevention levels in terms of boundaries and voice and so forth. But I could tell you just tons of stories, of success stories of everyday women who were assaulted, and they did fight back, and they were able to escape. And in fact,
and that answers the question really good, doesn't it, Dr. Ruthless, doesn't it? That you personally have talked to people that have been accosted, attacked, and they've made it, they've escaped, or they've handled it.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I am too one of them. But yes, and I one thing I would encourage listeners to do is to go to my Facebook page under Dr. Ruthless, because I post these stories like a mad woman. And, from the newspapers, from everywhere I get them, of everyday women. One story that comes to mind, it's a little dramatic. It had to do with a 51-year-old woman, and this was out in Portland, Oregon. And this is not about fitness. Sure, being in good shape helps and all, but really this is, again, about, summoning raw power and fierce will and determination. And this 51-year-old woman came home to a hammer-wielding attacker, and she killed him with her bare hands and left him in a heap on the kitchen floor. Now, that's kind of an ugly and extreme story, but it turned out that he was hired by her estranged husband as a hitman. He had come to kill her. Talk about the spirit of reversal, which is another thing I'd like to talk about.
I actually think I heard that. But that's a great example. But
there are everyday stories of women, all sizes and ages. And I just want to stress the point, because of the reality focus, which I so appreciate you're saying, that doesn't mean you won't get hurt. If I have to go physical against a guy your size, of course I'm probably going to get hurt. But you have to overcome the fear of injury. So it doesn't mean you don't get hurt, and it doesn't mean that fighting back is always physical defense, I should say, counterattack is always the best thing to do. I don't say that. What I want women is to be prepared and armed with good, solid skills and the ability to assess a situation and determine, what makes the most sense. Submission is a lousy choice. It's an option. It's a lousy option. So, this is where, again, we want to be realistic about this. If you have to know what your strengths and skills are, and you have to get some basic training, and you have to be prepared in your mind and in your heart and in the emotional body to dissolve the obstacles. And this is key for women, I think more so for men, is that we have to deal with the inner obstacles. I call them the inner muggers, from the conditioning, the socialization, from the fear factors, and all of those things, so that if, God forbid, a woman has to go physical or chooses to go physical to escape a situation, she has to be prepared already. The systems have to already be go, so she can hit the on switch. This is one of my techniques, is teaching women how to kind of hit that switch inside of themselves and do what they have to. And that means they have to give themselves permission to be rude, aggressive, impolite, and downright dirty in order to effectively escape, because a guy is going to be tough,
Well, if a guy's breaking in your house, he wants to rape you, he's not there to play tiddlywinks, he's not going to rub your hair gently. It's badass time. He could kill you, ruin the rest of your life, and you have the right to protect yourself. And you are saying that you can protect yourself. You've talked to people and women that have actually done that. And I agree with your answer 100%. Two things I want to get to. The first thing is you're kind of known, at least through the magazine shots I've seen, Melissa, that you use people or work with people that have all this protective gear on. Guys, like big guys, 6'2", 6'3", they got like headgear. Literally, they look like giant pumpkin heads, and they have padding, and that helps women really hit them, right, with all their gusto, all the power that they have, right?
Yes, that's the basic style or methodology that I come from, the lineage, if you will, that I hail from, is the padded attacker training. And of course it makes a difference because in two ways. One is that the guys are protected and they don't really get hurt, and which is important. And the second thing is that it gives the women the experience of being able to actually feel the adrenaline, feel the fear, and have to act and mobilize and go full force, no holds barred, and strike at vulnerable targets. And this is not something that most women have experience with, I mean,
well, let me stop you because we got 5 minutes. Most men don't have experience with that.
That's absolutely right. And part of the beauty of this kind of training is that you learn how to deal with all of that adrenaline and the fear. So it's powerful stuff.
It is powerful stuff, and that's why you could probably hear the excitement in my voice because what you're talking about is reality. And ladies and gentlemen, women can protect themselves. However, what you got to kind of watch out, ladies, and this is my opinion here, is that you want to get into the right kind of self-defense program. You want somebody that's reality-based. You don't want just somebody that's saying that all this is going to work and these, it's just, there's no reality. It just doesn't, it's just kind of, how do I put it? It's theory, and you're not really going for it. You're not really getting into it. And that's why I think what you do, Melissa Salt, Dr. Ruthless, I think is really cool. Now, is there anything that you do other than talk on the radio and talk on TV? By the way, I saw you on television with Richard Simmons. Tell me you beat him up just a little bit.
I had a chance to deck him, and I didn't take it.
I'm messing with you. But I saw you on with him, and I'm going, and I hope she gave him a little shot. I'm just kidding. But here's the big thing. Is there any, do you sell DVDs? Do you have a book? Talk to me.
I have a DVD. It's called Fierce and Female, appropriately, and you can access it from my website. There's a page about the DVD and how you can order it.
Okay.
I am working on a book, and that's a whole other project. And I'm also I'm thrilled to say that I'm going to be going back to India and to teach in a couple of months. I'm very, very involved and interested in women's empowerment and just how half the population, the world's population, should not live in fear of the other half. So I'm really at this point also very involved and interested in sort of passing my torch, if you will, and really bringing this kind of teaching to other locales.
Okay, what state are you in?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay, you're in Massachusetts, but so you do have a DVD that if people hop to your
Fierce
site?
and Female DVD. It's you can access it from my website, dr-ruthless.com. You can order it right from there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to recommend it, and I'll tell you why.
If I can just say one of
go ahead.
Two cassettes, but one of them is strictly focused on rape defense from lying down positions, and it deals a lot with the fear and all of the emotional realities as well.
Melissa, I'm going to buy it for our library because seriously, I've seen you for years and you are groundbreaking.
Well, thank you so much. I
really
appreciate
so
hearing
when we were able to connect, I was very happy that you were going to be on the show. But you can't leave yet. You got a minute. You got to do this really quick. Let's see how good you are in this kind of self-defense. Give us a couple of tips. Give us 2 or 3 tips of wisdom, nuggets of wisdom for women on how they can protect themselves or defend themselves.
Well, okay, here's a couple of quick ones. One is, I call it jungle consciousness. It's that you're out in the world, you're doing your life, you need to amplify your senses. And I'm not just talking about the boogeyman in the bushes, but, when you have a relationship, how does this relationship feel? What is this person's behavior? You really have to pay attention, not just externally, but also to your gut feelings and your own kind of, inner voice, if you will, and how do you feel? And out of that, one of the most important skills women need to learn is to set and defend their boundaries. And that means your personal space, to be able to say no, or I don't need your help, or back off, or, I don't want to go further, or whatever bumper sticker it is that we put on that, and how to really have a stance. You have to take a stance for yourself. So learn how to set and defend boundaries physically and spatially, and not to let people too close to you that you don't feel good about, simply put. The other thing is, in terms of tips, is...
Real quick, Melissa, 10 seconds.
Okay. You are the weapon, ladies. You got to remember that and understand that. You are the weapon, the delivery system. Everything else is a tool or a force multiplier, but you've got to own your power. Get the power.
Excellent. Melissa Salt we were talking to, also known as Dr. Ruthless. I'm serious. Go to dr-ruthless.com. Check her stuff out. I'm telling you, reality. It's reality. Thank you, Melissa. We'll talk again.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, with our second guest, all about organized crime. You can't miss it.
Hey everybody, this is Keith Zalley from the WTOE Radio Network, and right now we're going to take a few extra minute break just so we can save our files for our podcast. So please don't go anywhere because there's going to be more Steve and the Kovacs Perspective in just a few minutes.
Well, howdy! Thanks for coming to Big Bubba's. We got a mess of used cars. What can we do for you?
We're looking for, something cute.
Well, here's a beauty, a 99 model with a moonroof. As a bonus, we'll throw in a leaking gas tank. You could be driving and kaboom! Adds that zing of excitement.
You got any other cars?
Wouldn't it be great if you could be warned of life's risks? If you have diabetes, you can. There's a simple blood test called A1C that can help measure your risk of complications such as heart attack. Why is it important? Because 2 out of 3 people with diabetes die from a heart attack or stroke. If your A1C is above 7, your doctor can show you how to lower it. If you have diabetes, know your risk for heart attack. Know your A1C. Ask your doctor, or for more information, go to www.diabetesa1c.org or call 1-877-TEST-A1C. Brought to you by the American Diabetes Association, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation International, and the Ad Council.
Hello.
Is Joey home?
Joey, the door.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Hello, son. I'm Dean Rubin from college. I'm here to invite you to join us this fall.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a day.
Well, we've reviewed your application.
Give me an E.
No, wait. Right, you didn't actually fill out an application.
I didn't think I had to.
You know what? That's fine. Because your algebra grade certainly... No? Wait, you didn't actually take...
Well, no one told me I was supposed to...
whatever. You really want to go to college, and we really want to have you.
Joey, out of bed.
Hey, wake up. You can't dream your way into college. There are actual steps you need to take. For all the steps, visit knowhowtogo.org. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
If there was an emergency, would your family have enough water and non-perishable food to last 3 days? We asked families across the country. Here are some of their answers.
Well, we depend mostly on our meats, on our refrigerator, on, cooking that way, so most of our foods are in the refrigerator. Once the electricity goes out, your refrigerator goes out, so you can only use that for a certain amount of time.
We usually eat fresh food daily.
In the pantry we have granola bars and canned tomatoes,
True. That's true, but that's really not survival food. Tomato paste.
The brand of dog food that I do purchase for the dogs, as well as the cats, are edible by humans. We could even share the same bowls.
How about my own bowl?
You got your own bowl.
Is your plan any better? To learn more about making an emergency plan for your family, go to ready.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Ad Council.
Janine Marks, a 12-year-old, was fairly normal. She spent a lot of time online. One day, she met a new friend. The new friend had the same problems at home. They liked the same bands. They worried about the same subjects in school. They promised to keep each other's secrets. They wished they went to the same junior high. The new friend had good news. He said he was going to be in Janine's area one Saturday. He thought it would be amazing if they could just hang out, go to the mall. Janine agreed. The new friend didn't want parents messing this up. Janine showed up alone. So did her new friend, who wasn't in junior high, wasn't nice, and wasn't a 14-year-old boy. Last year, 1 in 5 children was sexually solicited online. Help delete online predators. Call 1-800-THE-LOST or visit cybertipline.com to learn how to protect your kids' online life. A message from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the Ad Council.
And now back to the Kovacs Perspective.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second time I'm going to use this word today, and I haven't used it in the last 10 years. Intrigued. I'm really intrigued by our next guest. He's the author of a book called The Constant outsider, the constant outsider. And, you know, he was around South Boston when Whitey Bulger, who was in the news just recently for about a year solid because they arrested him after 30 years or so being on the lam. He was one badass mobster in the Boston area. And actually, this guest that I'm going to introduce in 5 seconds was right around him. Actually, Whitey Bulger pulled a gun on him. I want to hear all about it. Thomas Cernano, how are you, my friend?
Steve.
Thomas, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Cernano, how are you? Tell me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Got a little echo there, my friend, but
okay.
Tell me, how did you become so unlucky to be in the area of South Boston when everybody around you was mob connected?
Well, my dad had a gas station and repair shop there that he started in 1947. And I was brought up basically around the gas station, around the repair shop, and in that environment in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So that's how I ended up there, and it was quite interesting.
Well, you know, let's go right to the latest news right now. Tell me who Whitey Bulger was and who he is now. Kind of connect that dot for me, those dots, will you?
Well, back in the 1970s and 80s, and I guess back into the 60s, he was sort of a shadowy figure. He kept himself out of the news and things like that. But basically, he controlled all of the gambling and the drug trafficking and just about anything that was illegal that went on. Nothing got done without him getting a piece of the action over those years. And, of course, being in the garage business, I got to know a lot of the soldier-type people, not him personally, except for that one occasion when he came in to visit me.
Well, okay, now let's not stop there. I mean, you just said the guy that was the big mob guy, killed people, probably himself. I believe he was convicted for that. Had people
Some of my
killed.
friends, too.
He pulled a gun on you. Why did he pull it? You look like a pretty nice guy. Why did he pull a gun on you?
Well, looks are deceiving, not in my case, but you know yourself being in law enforcement, a lot of criminals don't look like criminals. But
that's true.
During the gas shortage in 1970s, I had to restrict gasoline sales because we only had a few hundred gallons of gas to sell a day, and I had to keep my commercial customers taken care of, or they would abandon me when the shortage was over. So we had a $2 limit sign up on the front of the garage, and we had lines all the way down the street usually for, you know, strangers would come in, we'd give them $2 worth of gas, which would give you 4 gallons of gas probably back then.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman pulls in a big, you know, luxury car. I don't know if it was an Oldsmobile or a Buick, and he blurts out, "Fill it up." I didn't know who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, "Hey, pal, you know, can't you see the sign? It says $2 limit up there, and that's all you're going to get." And all at once, I see this chrome-plated automatic come out the window and stuck in my face. And he says, "I said fill it up." I had no idea who I was dealing with.
Wow.
But I happened to have an armed guard in my office that day for the very first time.
Okay.
World War II Pearl Harbor veteran actually had heard about a gas jockey that got shot and killed at another gas station in Boston just a few days prior to this incident. And he says, "Tom," he says, "it's getting dangerous pumping gas, saying no to people. I'll stand in your office and watch guard over you, you know, whenever I can during the day." So he's in the office, and if you see pictures of the front of my shop, the office door is only 5 or 10 feet away from the gas pumps.
Mm-hmm.
So while Whitey's got his gun out the window pointing at me, and I'm walking toward the back of the car saying, okay, I'll fill it up, right?
Yeah, I'll fill it up, yeah.
And I winked toward the office. And my guy, when Whitey's looking this way, pointing the gun back at me, he whips the front door of the shop open, and he's got his gun pointed right at Whitey's face.
Oh, wow.
No more than 10 feet away, Steve. We got the drop on him, like, so good. And he slams the car into drive, and boom, he takes off like a bullet. He didn't even get his head back in the window. His hat got caught in the electric window as it was going up. He had a hat that was like covering his eyes a little bit, you know. Mm-hmm. And it got crushed in the window as he drove away. We had no idea.
Well, wait a minute. Now, why are you still alive? I mean, did he ever come back, or did he ever? No, I'm not even kidding.
Well,
I mean, did he come back?
You know, you'd expect something really, really bad to happen.
Yeah.
I came in not too many days after that happened, and getting my coffee down at the corner store, and I'm looking down toward the gas station, and it didn't look right to me. And I'm looking, and I don't know, it just didn't look right. I started driving up toward the shop, and all the gas pumps were knocked over, smashed.
Ooh, boy.
And, of course, I thought it was some drunk must have hit it in the middle of the night, because that's usually what would happen in a case like that. So I'm standing there looking at my pumps and shaking my head, and my gas jockey, who lives on the 3rd floor directly across the street from the shop, comes walking over, and I says, "Hey, John, somebody must have been drunk and knocked into the pumps last night." And he says, "No, Tom, it was no accident." I said, "What do you mean it was no accident?" He says, "A big black Oldsmobile pulled up here at 1 o'clock in the morning." He says, "I was sitting in my window having a cigarette, and the car smashed into one of the pumps, backed up, went around the block, and came back and smashed into the other one. And luckily, there was no explosion or gas, fire, because there's all 3-decker houses that were built in the 1800s surrounding my shop. I hope you maybe can show a couple of pictures of the surrounding area if you have them. But,
I'm not sure what the producers and directors are doing.
It would have been a real catastrophe had that caught fire. So I'm assuming that that was payback for not giving them gas.
Well, you're lucky that's all. Was he a boss at that time, or was he just kind of a street player?
No, he was the boss all along. From all the years I was there, he was already at the top. Yeah.
Well, you're lucky probably to be alive, because back in that day, the mob was really, they really ruled, and they blew up. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and we were the bomb capital of the world or the country for a while. So, I mean, back in those days, it was pretty serious. But you're not only lucky because of that. Didn't you like hit a bunch of telephone poles? Didn't you? Yeah. Weren't you in like kind of an airplane glider and landed in the ocean or something?
I crashed my ultralight in the ocean and sank like a rock. I was strapped in with shoulder harnesses. Sank upside down on the ocean floor, and then I had to get out of all these restraints and everything. I mean, that's one of the most calmer things that happened to me. I mean, I left several bars in Southie just prior to them being machine gunned or shot up, and I mean...
Well, let me get off the subject. Do you believe in God?
I certainly do, yes.
It almost sounds like you might have a real good guardian angel sitting on your shoulder. Let me ask you, though, Tom, why is your book, and how long's your book been out, by the way? It's called The Constant Outsider.
2005, maybe? I can't remember. At my age, I can't remember everything.
Hey, well, you crashed in the ocean, you hit... Ladies and gentlemen, you got to buy his book just to find out all the stuff this guy's gone through. He's hit telephone poles, on and on and on. But we just don't have enough time to cover that. But why is your book called The Constant Outsider?
Well, I've always felt like an outsider. Basically, I was brought up in almost a totally Irish neighborhood of Dorchester and South Boston. We're predominantly Irish, and I'm all Italian. My father was an immigrant, and my mother's family came from Italy, too. And so I never quite felt like I fit in. So when I got to Southie and I wanted to fit in, I tried to find mechanisms that would get me accepted. And even though I was accepted, I tried to keep myself a little bit separated from the criminal activity that, I mean, a lot of people I knew, were criminals. It was just their way of making a living. You know from being in law enforcement that doesn't necessarily make somebody a horrible person. It's just that they were born into that family, that their dad was a bookie maybe, and then they, it just took over. But, it was kind of like walking a fine line, being able to be friends with all these guys, yet keeping myself safely separated from their activity, which I had many, many opportunities to get involved with.
And that is a fine line, because let me tell you, and we're talking to Thomas Cirinano. He's the author of The Constant Outsider. And I'll tell you, Tom, I grew up in an area where there was almost all Italian, and I have no Italian in me. All my friends were Italian. And it was called a group called the Junior Mafia. And many of them grew up, or some of them grew up to go into the real Mafia. And so I can understand what you're saying, to be around that. And I grew up with them from kind of... Then as I grew up, I went on in another path. I went into law enforcement, totally different path. And many of them went into the opposite. And it's kind of a balancing act, and sometimes you have to cut a cord, and I certainly did because I was law enforcement. But I understand what you're saying when you say that when you're with these people and hanging out with all these people, it's a unique dynamic, and it's a little bit tough, and it doesn't make everybody a despicable, person per se. So you bring up a good point. But, our time is kind of short, and you believe that your book can help people, right? Tell me how.
We lost him, Steve, on Skype. We're trying to get him back.
Okay. I think we lost Tom on we're utilizing Skype, and they're just telling me in my ear we lost him. We're trying to get him back. Technology is great, but sometimes it sucks. Skype can be a fantastic tool. ABC uses it, CBS uses it, NBC, everybody. And sometimes it's like a robot kind of thing, and sometimes you lose it. And let's see if we can get back this Skype. It doesn't look good. I'm hearing weird sounds in my ear, and it sounds like it's crash. And I would love to talk at length with Thomas Cernano. As he told me how to pronounce his name before we went on air. Nano. I wonder if they said that, the mob guy said that to him. He probably had a nickname. I hope we get him back so I can find out what his nickname is. Everybody in the mob world has a nickname. Hello. All right, we're going to try to get Thomas Cernano back on the telephone. If Skype doesn't work, we'll do the telephone. See what we got going on. All right, I'm going to tap dance. Do you guys ever see a aged guy tap dance? No? I'm hearing in my ear, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants. They would rather see a young guy tap dance. And some people are saying they'd rather see a young woman dance, but we're not get into that. How we doing, guys?
Well, I'll be on the air. I'll apologize to the audience. Apparently, it's at our end because you're not coming in so good either.
Okay.
So we did pay our bill, so I don't understand what's going on, but we're calling him as we speak. We should hopefully he'll answer the phone. Or Lori's not getting through on the phone, so maybe there's a problem with our area. I don't know, but we're trying here.
Okay. Nothing yet, folks. And my Skype or my Skype, my camera, I'm watching myself for dying too. Is it the bad weather we're having? We're going to wait a few more seconds. I'm going to type seconds. I'm going to do something along here. Because I had so much to talk to him about. I wanted to ask Tom, and I think the person doesn't know, when you hear organized crime and mob lifestyle, I think the average person doesn't know what that really means and what the life is like. Tom brought something up, that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're totally people. It's not like they're pedophiles. When we think of pedophiles, we want to wash ourselves, and there's no redeeming qualities. Some would say, but he said that they're not that bad in some ways. He kind of got prefaced that, I believe, when you say it. But I'd like to get his take on how is it living with people that are from that lifestyle, people that kill people.
Steve, I'm going to have to say I will apologize to the audience, but we're having such a problem even with you that I can't remedy it without Timberla going off the air, so we'll have to apologize for tonight.
Okay. I've been just told in my earpiece that there's some kind of technical glitch going on. I don't know if it's nationwide or region-wise, and everything's falling apart. So that we're going to cut the show short, cut it short, and about 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to have Thomas Cernano back. But before I leave, first I want to apologize to Thomas Cernano, and I want to apologize to the folks that we didn't get to really hear a lot of him. We'll have him back on because he's an interesting. So something's happening. We're hearing phone lines are going down. Maybe, there's an ice storm going on somewhere in the country, and it's affecting our region also. But anyway, our guest was the author of The Constant Outsider, Thomas Cernano. hop on his website, www.theconstantoutsider.com. We'll have him back. I want to apologize to you guys. We had a great talk with Dr. Ruthless. Go on her site, check it out. We'll have Tom back. We'll find out what it really is to hang out with mob people all the time and survive. But he's got a big guardian angel on his shoulder, rather. Oh, around the corner, eyes back on the shoulder. Again, my apologies. Until next time, 2 weeks. We'll see you. So long.
Kovacs Perspective is brought to you by the WTOE Radio Network at ThruOurEyes.org. All WTOE shows are available as a podcast. Visit our podcast page to learn more. The Kovacs Perspective was written by Steve Kovacs, directed by Tom Bendenwald Jr., technical director and audio engineer Len Azzarone, assistant audio engineer Lori Viscuso. For more information about the Kovacs Perspective, visit www.allsourcesecurity.com. All words, ideas, and comments expressed on the Kovacs Perspective are those of Steve Kovacs and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the NFB Northeast New Jersey Chapter, or the WTOE Radio Network. Until next time, I'm Keith Zally.
Done it again.
And that's all, folks.